China just did something shocking while the US was busy fighting Iran. Nobody expected this. March 14, 2026. American soldiers are scrambling into bunkers at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Iranian missiles are incoming. The Patriot batteries are firing. 5 US aircraft are about to get damaged on the tarmac. And 35,000 kilometers above that base, a satellite is watching, photographing, feeding coordinates to the people who fired those missiles. That satellite was not Iranian, it was not Russian, it was built in China, launched by China. Sold to Iran's Revolutionary Guard by a Chinese company called Earth-I Co., in a contract signed in Chinese yuan, by an IRGC brigadier general, 9 months before this war began. The Financial Times confirmed it. The ISW confirmed it. The U.S. House Select Committee on China confirmed the satellite company has direct ties to the PLA's aerospace force. While America was fighting Iran, China gave Iran the eyes to aim. But that is not even the most shocking thing China did. Because while 3 American carriers were sailing toward the Strait of Hormuz, while THAAD batteries were being airlifted from South Korea to the Middle East, while the entire world was watching missiles fly over the Persian Gulf, China was running 4 separate operations simultaneously. Operations that nobody expected. Operations that were too coordinated to be coincidence. Operations that, when you lay them out side by side, tell a story about what China is actually preparing to do next. And that story is what this video is entirely about. Confirmed facts. Financial Times, April 14, 2026. ISW/AEI, April 17, 2026. U.S. House Select Committee on China. Let us go through each operation in detail, because every single one is confirmed by Tier 1 sources. Operation 1. The Satellite. In September 2024, 5 months before this war began, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps signed a contract worth $36.6 million with a Chinese company called Earth-I Co. The contract was written in Chinese yuan, signed by an IRGC brigadier general. It gave Iran full operational control of a Chinese-built satellite called TEO-1B, including access to ground stations operated by another Beijing-based company called Emposat across Asia and Latin America. The U.S. House Select Committee on China confirmed that Emposat has close ties to the PLA's aerospace force. When Operation Epic Fury launched on February 28, Iran activated TEO-1B immediately. The Financial Times obtained time-stamped coordinate lists and orbital analysis confirming that Iranian military commanders tasked the satellite to monitor U.S. military sites across the Middle East. The satellite captured images of Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia on March 13, 14, and 15. Iran struck the base on March 14, the middle day of that 3-day surveillance window. 5 U.S. aircraft were damaged. The timing was not coincidental. A former CIA analyst told the Financial Times, this satellite significantly expanded Iran's ability to monitor U.S. military assets. He said, combine Chinese satellite imagery with Russian intelligence and Iranian human assets on the ground. Quote, that is a powerful tool. China sold Iran the eyes. Iran used those eyes to find American soldiers. And 4 American service members died in Iranian strikes on bases that Chinese satellites had photographed. Confirmed facts. Financial Times, April 14, 2026. ISWAEI, April 17, 2026. U.S. House Select Committee. Operation 2. Even more brazen than the satellite, because this one was done completely in the open. On February 27, 2026, one single day before Operation Epic Fury launched, a Chinese company called Mizar Vision posted on Chinese social media. The post said, satellite imagery shows U.S. military continuously transporting supplies to Ovda Air Force Base via C-17 transport planes, 7 F-22 stealth fighters on the tarmac, 4 more on the runway. Mizar Vision was publishing the precise locations of America's most advanced stealth aircraft in Israel, 24 hours before the war began. Flight Global confirmed that Operation Epic Fury launched roughly 24 hours after that post. What followed over the next 8 weeks was a systematic public intelligence operation targeting every major American military installation in the region. Mizar Vision published satellite imagery of the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier departing Crete, the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group in the Arabian Sea, Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, including the exact positions of Patriot missile batteries, aircraft parking areas, and hardened shelters, Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. The U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency confirmed to ABC News on April 5 that the IRGC was actively monitoring these datasets continuously. Multiple assets highlighted in Mizar Vision imagery were later targeted in Iranian strikes. Mizar Vision holds a Chinese National Military Standard Certificate. The Chinese government has a minority ownership stake. A retired PLA colonel told South China Morning Post, Mizar Vision's work demonstrates capability. He said it was advertising. China was not just selling Iran information. China was showing the world, and specifically Washington, exactly what it can see, from space, in real time, about every American military asset on the planet. Confirmed facts. ABC News, April 5, 2026. Flight Global, March 11, 2026. DIA assessment confirmed. Operation 3. While Chinese satellites were helping Iran aim, Chinese ships were making sure Iran never ran out of ammunition to fire. The Telegraph confirmed on April 3 that 5 separate shipments of sodium perchlorate, the essential chemical precursor for solid rocket fuel, arrived in Iran from China during the active conflict. 5 shipments, not 1, not accidentally, 5. The Washington Post confirmed in March that ships laden with missile fuel chemicals had departed from Zhuhai port on China's southern coast, a location the Post identified as where Iran specifically secures precursors for ballistic missile production. The ISW and AEI joint assessment stated directly, the PRC has shipped missile fuel precursor chemicals to Iran throughout the conflict. And then came the Tuska. On April 19, U.S. Marines fast-roped from helicopters onto an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. The vessel had departed Zhuhai. Trump told reporters, "We caught a ship that had some things on it which weren't very nice, a gift from China perhaps." The ISW assessment connected everything explicitly. The PRC shipped missile fuel to Iran and sold Iran a satellite that Iran used to target U.S. bases. 2 operations, 1 goal: keep Iran fighting, keep Iran firing, keep America burning through the interceptors it needs to defend Taiwan. China was not a passive observer of this war. According to the Institute for the Study of War, China very likely does not want Iran to lose, because an Iran that surrenders is an Iran that stops draining America's weapons stockpile. And a full American weapons stockpile is the last thing China wants right now. Confirmed facts. Telegraph, April 3, 2026. Washington Post, March 2026. ESW/AEI, April 10, 2026. Operation 4. And this is the one that made every military analyst at the Diplomat and ISW stop what they were doing. Because what China did in the Pacific while America was watching the Middle East was not just posturing. According to the Diplomat's analysis published April 20th, China was conducting what looks exactly like a tactical envelopment rehearsal. Here is what happened in sequence. April 17th, China's Eastern Theater Command launched joint combat readiness patrols in the East China Sea in response to Japan's destroyer transit of the Taiwan Strait. April 19th, China dispatched the 133rd Naval Task Group, led by the Type 252D destroyer Baotou, through the Yoko-Ate Channel between the Japanese islands. Critically, the task group deliberately chose the Yoko-Ate Channel rather than the more familiar Miyako Strait route. The Yoko-Ate Channel is closer to the Japanese mainland. The choice was intentional. It was not the route of least resistance, it was the route of maximum psychological impact. April 20th, the aircraft carrier Liaoning transited the Taiwan Strait heading south. Taiwan's military photographed it. J-15 fighters on deck. April 22nd, the Liaoning entered the South China Sea, preparing for joint naval and air exercises. Simultaneously, the 133rd Task Group entered the Philippine Sea from the north. The Diplomat's analysis was explicit. Simultaneous plan operations by the 133rd Task Group in the Philippine Sea and by the Liaoning in the South China Sea could amount to a tactical envelopment rehearsal aimed at forces operating near Luzon, a rehearsal for surrounding the exact location where 17,000 American, Japanese, and Philippine troops were conducting Balikatan exercises. China did not just send ships, China practiced surrounding the people doing the exercises. Confirmed facts. The Diplomat, April 20, 2026. Is AW/AEI, April 17, 2026. Taiwan MND confirmed Liaoning. And then, overlapping all 4 of these operations, came the ship that nobody expected China to deploy this soon, the Sichuan, China's Type 076 amphibious assault ship. The world's first warship specifically designed from the keel up to launch swarms of autonomous AI-guided combat drones from electromagnetic catapults. Not manned aircraft, drones. The Sichuan departed Shanghai and sailed directly into the South China Sea, into the same waters where the Balikatan exercises were happening, where the Liaoning was conducting exercises, where the 133rd Task Group was operating from the north. 3 Chinese naval forces converging simultaneously on the same geographic area where America, Japan, and the Philippines were conducting the largest military exercises in the history of their alliance. The ISW assessment confirmed. The Sichuan's deployment was timed directly to the Balikatan exercises. China was not sending 1 ship, China was sending a message with 3 ships arriving from 3 directions at once. And the message embedded in the Sichuan specifically was something no American naval officer had ever had to plan against before. A warship that can keep its human crew safe inside a hull while sending waves of autonomous drones ahead of it to probe enemy air defenses, identify targets, saturate radar systems, and strike, without a single pilot ever leaving the ship. The U.S. Navy has never faced a ship like this in any exercise, in any simulation, in any war game, and now it is operating in the South China Sea. Right now, today. But here is the operation that most people missed entirely, and it may be the most strategically sophisticated move China made while America was distracted. Taiwan has elections in November 2026. And while American cameras were pointed at the Strait of Hormuz, China launched a full-scale political influence operation designed to shape those elections. According to the AEI and ISW April 24 assessment, China deployed 100 naval and coast guard vessels around Taiwan, double the usual number, timed specifically to coincide with a visit by the KMT opposition party chairwoman Cheng Li-Win to Beijing. The KMT is Taiwan's pro-unification party. Xi Jinping met personally with Cheng. China released a 10-point plan offering economic benefits tied specifically to the KMT visit. China offered reduced trade barriers, tourism incentives, and investment packages, all conditional on political outcomes. Then, simultaneously, China staged live-fire drills in the Yellow Sea. The message to Taiwan's voters was surgically precise: vote for the KMT, get economic benefits and peace. Vote for the ruling DPP, face military exercises and uncertainty. This is not new. China has tried this before. What is new is the timing. China launched this influence operation during the exact window when America's attention was elsewhere, when American media was covering blockades and ceasefire negotiations, when the U.S. Pacific commander was testifying about weapons depletion, when 3 American carriers were in the Persian Gulf. China chose the moment of maximum American distraction to make its most targeted move against Taiwan's democracy, not with missiles, with economics and timing. The AEI assessment described this as part of a multi-domain coercion campaign targeting Taiwan's November elections. Here is the honest, complete picture, because Taiwan is not simply a passive target in this story. Taiwan is watching China's every move and responding. The ISW assessment confirmed that Taiwan's legislative yuan advanced its general government budget after a 6-month delay on April 21st, the same week China was conducting all of these operations simultaneously. The ruling DPP is pushing a $40 billion asymmetric defense budget, specifically covering U.S. arms purchases and domestic weapons manufacturing. Taiwan received its first American MQ-9B Sky Guardian surveillance drones, specifically designed to track Chinese naval movements in real time. Japan, whose destroyer transited the Taiwan Strait on the exact anniversary of when China lost Taiwan, revised its defense export restrictions on April 21st, specifically to allow lethal weapons sales to regional partners. Australia has already purchased 3 Japanese frigates. The Philippines and Taiwan have both expressed interest in purchasing more. Japan is deploying an energy support framework worth $10 billion to strengthen regional partners against the supply disruptions caused by the Iran war. And the AEI assessment noted something China does not want to hear. The PLA may be prioritizing loyalty and ideological orthodoxy over military competence. Amid its largest internal purges since the Cultural Revolution, China's carriers are advancing. But the commanders who would operate them are being replaced by political loyalists rather than combat-experienced officers. China is building the most expensive fleet in its history and filling it with people chosen for their loyalty rather than their capability. Confirmed facts. EISW/AEI April 24, 2026. Japan Export Rules April 21, 2026. Taiwan MND. Let us lay out the 5 confirmed facts that nobody expected, because together they form a picture that changes how every person watching this should think about what China is actually doing. Fact 1. Confirmed by the Financial Times. China sold Iran a satellite in September 2024 that Iran used to target U.S. military bases in March 2026, 5 months of preparation before the war started. Fact 2. Confirmed by ABC News and the DIA. A Chinese company published AI-tagged satellite imagery of every major American base in the Middle East, the day before the war began. Fact 3. Confirmed by the Telegraph and ISW. China shipped missile fuel precursor chemicals to Iran in at least 5 separate shipments during the active conflict. Fact 4. Confirmed by the Diplomat. China conducted what analysts described as a tactical envelopment rehearsal around the Philippines, with 3 naval forces converging simultaneously on the waters where 17,000 American, Japanese, and Philippine troops were exercising. Fact 5. Confirmed by ISW and AEI. China deployed double its normal number of naval vessels around Taiwan and launched a political influence operation targeting Taiwan's November elections, while America's attention was completely absorbed by the Iran war. 5 facts, 5 separate operations, all happening simultaneously. All while China publicly called for peace and ceasefire. The AEI and ISW said it in one sentence. China is employing a multifaceted strategy to counter U.S. influence and prepare for potential conflict, with covert military support for Iran, military posturing toward Taiwan, and strategic diplomatic maneuvers across the Indo-Pacific. Multifaceted, covert, simultaneous. Here is the question that this video leaves every American with. Was this unexpected, or was it exactly what China planned? On March 14, 2026, while Iranian missiles were hitting Prince Sultan Air Base, a Chinese satellite was overhead photographing the damage. On February 27, while American generals were finalizing the order of battle for Operation